Active Management Program for Healthcare Technology Department will be the topic of this video. This video will be separated into two parts. In the first part, we will cover the following points: Active Management Program elements. So we'll start with the mention of the Active Management Program, which are safety, effectiveness, regulatory, asset management, maintenance, and quality assurance. Then we will cover some of these points for this program, which are safety, effectiveness, regulatory, asset management. The rest of the points will be covered in another video. So we are talking an active program for the management phase in the healthcare technology life cycle. The first thing comes to our mind: why we need an active program for active management program, and what are the elements needed to have such a program. The positive outcomes with the healthcare technology are best achieved through an active program of management throughout their life cycles. So this is the reason behind having an active management program. This program um, should have the following elements, which are safety, effectiveness, regulatory, asset management, maintenance, and quality assurance. These points will be covered in this part, and the rest of the points will be covered in the second part. Now we'll start with safety, which is the first element. Safety was the reason behind the emerging of the clinical engineering field in the late 1960s. So in this slide, we can see some of the articles in that period. One was established in 1969 with a title, Accidental Electrocutions Kill 1,200 a Year in Hospitals. Another article with the title, Ralph Nader's Most Shocking Expose, was published in 1971. Ralph Nader is an American activist who is concerned with the consumer protection and other major issues. So at that period, the electrocutions of the patients was a major issue. Currently, we have other issues such as the incidents or accidents which are happening due to the use of MRI machines with high magnetic intensity fields. We can see here first an obese man stuck in an MRI machine. We see the attraction of a crash cart by the magnet of this MRI machine. Another photos shows the attraction of a wheelchair and a chair by MRI machines. In the next slide, we will see a short video. We'll watch this video and which stress or emphasize the importance of safety in case of the use of the medical devices, especially when we are talking about a powerful and medical devices or systems such as the MRI.
Whoa! So the force we're reading on that guy right now, just at that part of the magnet, is close to 300, 280?
Yeah, pretty good. Let's see what we can get.
So the wrench, which is a piece of metal, is now attracted by this gantry, which has a magnetic field of 4 Tesla.
There it goes.
Oh, that's almost
And now it is giving us a reading of 500 pounds. Whew.
Now a test will be performed in a chair, which also will be attracted by this magnetic or powerful magnet. Also, the value of this force will be measured.
$50, $560. Ooh. We are at 700.
Some medicines.
Yeah.
700 pounds.
Oh, it's about
Oh, and we have jumped to 1300.
that's exactly really.
Yeah, we have
Well, the
jumped.
most magnetic stuff is right here, still on top of the chair.
Whoa.
So
I
we're
mean,
just about to hit the sweet spot.
The
Keep going.
wheel is sitting.
Whoa!
Baby!
There we go.
Oh my god.
Okay. What do we got now? No, look at it, 1,700 pounds.
We are at 1700,
Wait,
which is far
250.
more than this thing.
You just relaxing
not-
it now? Yeah. Okay, so the there it
Oh.
goes. Oh,
Now it's up to
1800.
1800.
It's past 2000. I'm past 2000.
no. We're gonna.
There you go.
This.
So the attraction force of a 4 Tesla magnet in an MRI machine had reached 1800 pounds. Imagine what this force could cause for a patient or any type of equipment. Also, in this photo, we see another serious injury for an infant, which was caused by the use of reusable return electrode for an electrical surgical unit. So the use of the medical devices sometimes could lead to a serious injury or even to the death of a patient. So safety should be important in addition to another elements or components. The mantra or the motto of a clinical engineers and biomedical technicians or clinical engineering staff is to make high quality, safe medical devices. So high quality, safe medical devices. Not only high quality, but also safe, available for patient care. So what are the requirements to have safe medical devices or systems available for patient care? The requirements include a device evaluation before purchase. This can be accomplished through the use of demo or demonstration. A medical device will be supplied from the vendor to make our clinical evaluation and technical evaluation prior to the approval of the purchase order. So we make clinical evaluation and technical evaluation in addition to the financial evaluation. Another requirement is the preparation for the use of this medical device in the healthcare setting through the performing of training for the staff in the proper use and the safe use of this medical device. Another point or requirement is the proactive steps such as the determination of the inclusion or exclusion of this device from the preventive maintenance program. Another requirement is the monitoring of systems. Also, another requirement is the rapid response to the problems. This requirement is very important and essential. In case we have any problem, we should react rapidly and take actions to prevent the occurrence or the happenings of such incident again. Finally, skilled workers with proper resources to resolve the problems will be another requirement to have a safe medical devices available for patient care. I will talk a little bit about this point. So the skilled workers in the healthcare technology department include the manager or the clinical technology manager, include the clinical engineers, include biomedical technicians, as well supervisors for clinical engineers and biomedical technicians. In addition to the academic qualification or degree, a basic training is essential prior to start the work in a clinical engineering department. Also preferable to be evaluated and having a certificate on in the professionalism level of this skilled worker. So we have different type of certificates to assure the uh, readiness of such skilled workers to work and to provide a safe environment for patient, staff, and visitors as a result of the use of medical devices. Here we can see a certificate for a certified biomedical equipment tissue, another certificate for a certified healthcare technology manager. So such a certificate will be also essential and important to ensure to provide a safe environment for due to the use of the medical devices. We can see here some photos for biomedical technicians and clinical engineers working in a hospital or a medical center to provide a safe medical devices for patient care. The second element or component in such active program will be the effectiveness. Having a dedicated technical service department in hospitals is a good investment and not a bad one. The payback will be improved patient care through accurate diagnosis and therapy. Secondly, reduced cost through the active management, a safer environment for patients, staff, and visitors, and finally, more satisfied consumers, both staff and patients. As for the reduced cost, um, more medical devices are now used in the healthcare setting or in hospitals, um, and providing safe medical devices for patient care is essential, and also the reducing of the cost due to the maintenance of these devices is also essential. As we can see here are some photos for staff and patients who are working in a hospital with a safe medical devices. We see the smiley faces and the happy faces. Also, in addition to provide the safety for the use of the medical devices, it's essential to provide or to represent these medical devices for patients with a friendly environment or friendly interface or friendly manner or way. We can see here an MRI in a pediatric hospital which has been turned into a capsule. Another photo here for a CT scanner also in a pediatric hospital, which has been turned into a friendly machine, and we can see the smiley face or the happy face of this patient. Here also another friendly environment for the performing of mammographic exam. We can see the use of different effects such as visual, audible, and scent effects. The third point or the third element or component in such a program will be the regulatory. Uh, Joint Commission International (JCI), NFPA, OSHA, and FDA and other standards and regulations have requirements for a life cycle quality management of medical technology. So how we can provide a life cycle quality management of medical technology? We need resources to achieve this. The required resources include skilled staff, and we have talked about this previously. Also, tools, test and repair equipment are also needed, which is another required resource. And finally, a computerized equipment management system. And we'll now talk about this part. So, in order to achieve a life cycle quality management, which is required by the standards and guidelines, it's essential to have three resources, which are the skilled staff, tools and testing equipment, and finally, computerized equipment management system. So what is a computerized management system, equipment management system, or also known as a computerized maintenance management system? It's an essential tool for device inventory, documenting all actions related to an equipment item, and finally reporting capability to improve the management of devices, vendors, staff, and parts. As the father of the total quality management, Deming said, if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. So what are the features for such system, the computerized equipment management system? Some of the features of CEMS, or the computerized equipment management system, are asset information, maintenance data, safety data, communication data, staff data. The asset information will be on equipment identification, device inclusion and cost. The maintenance data on device procedures, scheduling, parts, warranty, service contracts, and maintenance insurance. The safety data on recalls, alerts, and device incidents. The communication data will be related to the electronic patient health information, storage, and security attributes. Finally, the staff data will be related to the staff work schedules and assignments, productivity, and time documentation. So, we are gathering information using the computerized equipment management system, but what is much more important than the gathering of the data is the analysis of data and taking actions to improve and to enhance the quality of the quality provided by the healthcare technology department. So the management aspect is reviewing the cumulative data which will be used to adjust the maintenance schedule. So the gathering of data will be used to perform a lot of tasks to improve the performance of the clinical engineering department or the healthcare technology department. We will take actions, as we said, to adjust the maintenance schedule, to identify common failures, and to find the action which will be suitable to prevent the happenings or the occurrence of such incidents or failures. Assess with repair and replace decisions. Sometimes when the cost of the repair will be a little bit higher by comparison to the initial cost, then a repair and the replace decision will be taken, and the dispose of this medical device should be done. So this will be provided through the gathering of the information about this device, and this will be through the computerized equipment management system. Also, that determine if the user education is necessary. This will be based on the user error reports and no problem found work orders. So an analysis of the work orders and the reason behind these work orders will help us to determine if the user education is necessary uh, based on the number of these work orders. Finally, this will help us, the gathering of the data from the computerized equipment management system will help us to determine equipment damage and abuse. So as we said, this program or system will help us to gather information about different points and different areas, and also will help us in the analysis or the actions that should be taken based on the analysis made or taken from the use of such system. So till now we have talked about the first, the safety, which is the first element of an active program management program. Then we talked about the effectiveness and regulatory requirements. Now we'll talk about the fourth element or component, which is the asset management. There are many activities in the asset management part or element. The first will be the acceptance and acceptance testing and adding of this medical device to the inventory. After the device is received, installed, and the staff are trained, its journey begins in the healthcare setting. So the first step will be in this healthcare in this journey will be the acceptance testing, and we will talk about this, and adding this device to the asset inventory. Now we'll talk in detail about the process of acceptance testing and adding to the inventory. We will have five steps in this process. The first step will be a general checkup. This general checkup will include the verification of that the device is not damaged and has all the accessories and subsystems, documentation, and other purchase order requirements as ordered. So sometimes due to improper transporting of the medical device or improper packaging, this would lead to the damage of this medical device or system. So verification of that this device is not damaged is essential, and also to a check up of the requirements in the purchase order should be made before the signing of the delivery order. As we can see here, the photo for the delivering of an ultrasound machine. Here also a packaged PT and CT scanner. Here also we see the delivery of an MRI machine, the gantry of MRI machine, which has a weight of 13 tons. Thus the verification of this gantry is not damaged is essential, and also the installation of this equipment should be made in a proper manner to avoid the possible injury or harm for the staff or even for visitors or any other one. The second point in the acceptance testing and adding to the inventory, the PM inclusion, that we should make a check-up or analysis if this device should be included in the preventive maintenance schedule or program or should be excluded. As we can see in here in this photo, a total risk number is 12, and this means that this device should be included in the preventive maintenance schedule and the PM should be performed annually. The third point will be administrating a full inspection, including safety and performance testing. Why we need this full inspection? in order to verify that the device works to advertised specification and establish a baseline for the device. Another reason is to ensure that this device is safe to use prior to being used in a patient for a treatment or for diagnosis. So the safety and performance inspection should include an electrical safety testing according to the required standard. Here also the performance testing for an infant incubator according to the IEC 6061 219. So the third step in the acceptance testing and adding to the inventory will be safety and performance inspection. The fourth point will be the device tagging. Tagging, if the inspection and testing is passed, a unique identifier is placed on the device. Example, we can add a control number, a barcode tag, or an RFID tag. RF meaning radio frequency identification tag. We have two types of this. We have a passive and active one. Also, some points should be considered in this step. If the device is an existing type, this means that if you have similar devices already existed in our PM schedule. Another point is to include the purchasing price because we should compare the annual maintenance cost with this purchase price. This is used as a performance indicator for the department. Also, another data should be included, such as the battery replacement schedule, warranty, purchase order informations, and other data. Also, if this device has electronic patient health information or is connected to the network, this also should be included. The last point, before to move to the last point, I want to talk about the type of tags which are currently used in hospital and medical centers to identify the medical devices or tag the medical devices. We have, as we said, an RFID, which is a radio frequency identification tag. We have barcode labels, which could be 1D or 2D labels. We have also the fingerprint. I prefer the use of the RFID tag because, as we said, we have two types. We have the passive and active. The active is preferable because it helps us, especially in the case of having a large number of medical devices in our inventory. Example, in the case of the medical centers, we have like around 10,000 medical devices in the PM program or a preventive maintenance program or schedule, which need to be located in the date of the performing the maintenance. This sometimes will be difficult, as we said, because we have a large numbers, we have a large number of medical devices, and we have large areas in the hospital or the medical center. So using such tagging system will help us to locate each equipment anytime we need easily, and this will be important. Another important feature for the use of such an active RFID tag is the tracking of the medical devices in case we need to ensure that this device will be stay inside the medical center. Sometimes some incidents happen, like some items may be stolen from the hospital. This will give us an alarm in that case. So the use of the RF tagging system is really helpful. The last point is a delivery of this medical device or system to the clinical floor. After after this the database has been populated, the device will be delivered to the clinical floor. It should be verified that there has been training on the equipment, which is very essential prior to use in the patient, and the area is able to accept the equipment. This department is able to accept this department. So the task or the steps in the acceptance testing and adding to inventory are 5 steps, which are firstly general check-up for the damage and the requested parts and consumables will be made. The second step will be the check up for the preventive maintenance inclusion or exclusion. The third point will be a full inspection, including an electrical safety and performance testing should be done in order to ensure that this device will be or system will be safe prior to use in the patients and to establish a baseline for that. The last point will be the delivery of this device or medical system into the clinical floor. We have also in the assist management element, we have other activities. In this slide, we see the previous mentioned points. As we said, we should have a tagging for this device. It could be, as we said, a barcode label or tag. It could be an RFID or a control number. In this case, as we can see in this computerized equipment management system, they used the control number. We see the information which should be entered with this device, which are the model, the manufacturer, the serial number, also the warranty period, the purchase cost, which is essential to decide later in the case of the annual maintenance cost has reached a higher cost or a higher percentage by comparison to the purchase cost. To this device should be either disposed or take out of the service, should be replaced, and other information. This is the purchase order, for example. Sometimes we put the purchase order number and other data. So the first activity in the asset management will be the acceptance testing and adding to inventory. The other activities will include entering cost of the maintenance, upgrades of this medical device or systems, the tracking, as we said, the data and device location, and we have talking about this, about the use of an active RFID tags, which may be automated or manual. It's preferable to be automated. Providing data for this device depreciation. This device depreciation can be decided using, as we said before, the cost, the annual maintenance cost, by the comparison to the purchase cost. Another important point in the asset management is the standardized nomenclature, because it's impossible to carry out a search for like devices if they have different names. Also, this standardization should be extended from the device manufacturer models and device type to the procedures, parts, schedules, and other input parameters. Finally, thank you.